What's going on, everybody? Trying to win $2 million today over Underdog Fantasy. It's Best Ball Mania season, and myself and the one, the only Dwayne, the Rock McFarland, are picking out of the four hole, trying to, build the best fantasy team possible. So, Mr. Dwayne, welcome, and, talk about your love for Best Ball, man, because it really is pretty freaking sweet.
I do love best ball, and it's like if there is a format that's grown on me over the last 3 years more than any other, it's best ball. But that's the beauty of fantasy. Just before the show, we're sitting here talking about dynasty leagues. There's aspects to them we like. There's redraft leagues. There's things we like about them. And then there's the things that we like about best ball. I will tell you, as a content creator full year round, I like the fact I don't have to manage my best ball teams once 100%. The season kicks off.
Well, Dwayne, I'm going to tell you to shut up because we are on the clock. Bijan Robinson, CeeDee Lamb, Jahmyr Gibbs at the top over here, unless you're feeling getting frisky, which I don't hate.
No, I mean, I'm taking Bijan at pick 4, like he's normally gone by 3.
Cool.
Now we're set up to go hero.
I've done some of these drafts where I've almost purposely taken Genty maybe at like the 106 because he is moving up now. It's maybe a bad example. Okay, I'm picking 2 spot. I picked Genty because I do think he has the chance to, actually break fantasy, be the number 1 overall player this year. But how many teams picking the 2 spot are actually going to be taking him in the first place in these massive tournaments? I do think getting that level of small contrarianism while still getting a good player could potentially pay off. But I think what you said again, where Bijan, gotta think heavy majority of these, drafts, he's going top 3. So when I do get a chance to, again, get Bijan freaking Robinson at just a little bit difference, that's a nice deal.
Yeah, but I think what you said about the tier of players, it's Saquon Barkley, Bijan Robinson, Ashton Genty, and Jahmyr Gibbs. Any one of them could finish as the running back 1 this season, and that's the way you should think about it. So meaning if you've got the pick from the 101 and you want to go Bijan, and this is if you're building tons and tons of teams, right? Then you should do it. You want to do it some with Ashton Genty, you should do it because it's going to change up the different pairings and the way that your team can ultimately shake out. And then that can give you a small edge, right, over some of the other builds that have gotten Genty, say, in the first 4 or 5 picks, just the way your roster might fall. So I am definitely with you, and I think you should do the same thing with the wide receivers. Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, they're all right there together.
We'll do my best to go ahead and describe, again, the draft as it's falling for all of our audio listeners. Appreciate you guys. For all the YouTube fan tuning in, you can see the draft board here live, and go ahead and let us know there in the comments if you think we had a good draft, a miserable draft, or maybe what you would have done differently. Always appreciate hearing from you guys, but we do have fairly quick room, already gotten through round 1. Saquon, Bijan, Jahmyr Gibbs, and Ashton Genty are the only 4 running backs to go inside the top 12 picks. As is, customary on Underdog, we do have a ton of wide receivers flying off the board. Chase, Jettas, Lamb, Puka, and Nico, pretty much the consensus top 5 at this point. Also have Neighbors, our one true sun god, and Brian Thomas Jr. rounding out round 1. Brock Bowers did go ahead and go pick 14. And Dwayne, I forget, might have been Hayden Winks. I forget who I saw send the tweet, but it was basically something along the lines of, oh, okay, we have a Raiders team that we aren't exactly expecting fireworks from. Okay, we got Geno Smith. We're feeling better. But, man, you would think that an offense that has 2 top 15 overall picks, might be projected a little bit higher from the Raiders. What can go wrong here? I mean, do you think that maybe Bowers is the one who maybe we look back and say, yeah, that was, a bit aggressive taking him in round 2?
I mean, maybe. I think the challenge with, if you look at the way ceilings and floors work for tight ends and wide receivers and tight end, Brock Bowers is not your typical tight end. But like when you plug it into our variance model, Lad McConkey just has a better ceiling than Brock Bowers. So there's also that question that starts to come into play. If you have a wide receiver that truly goes off, and they become an elite superstar, they're typically going to give you a better overall point ceiling than a guy like Brock Bowers. So I have no disputes with where Bowers is going. I think he gives you a differentiator at the position. I think the biggest challenge is that you can get
Jonathan Taylor, Bucky Irving, T. Higgins, Tyreek Hill, 10 seconds. I don't want Tyreek.
Yeah, I really wanted to go with a wide receiver here. Is Lad McConkey gone?
Yes, we're going Jonathan Taylor. And now we're not going to take another running back for quite some time. So going RB, not for the faint of heart, if you will. But I do think Lad, who went 2 picks earlier. Trey McBride went 1 pick earlier. AJ Brown, Drake London. This is kind of the part, Dwayne, I think we hit a little bit of a, extended tier at wide receiver. So definitely going to go back to one now. Higgins, JSN, Garrett Wilson, Marvin Harrison Jr., Terry McLaurin, the next guy's up. That said, if you do look at our rankings, man, Devontae Adams is someone who I do, would be willing to take over most of those guys. And Rashee Rice, I think we're looking again, Dwayne, at a situation where whoever ends up drafting Rashee Rice, I tend to just say, nice pick.
Yeah, Rashee Rice, everything's really bullish right now. The docs are actually coming out and saying, hey, wouldn't be surprised if they played a game that he played tomorrow. The latest legal stuff from Drew Davenport have the potential for this to just play out again over the course of another year. We may not have to deal with it. So if you're telling me those things around Rashee Rice, like I absolutely love him as the kind of pick, that would add to this team. Right now, he's going running back 38. So what's our pick here?
We're picking 28. He's going 33 in Underdog. We have 5 seconds.
I would say just take him.
Rashee Rice, welcome to the club. So again, Devontae Adams and even Garrett Wilson, 2 other guys I would have considered there. But honestly, just a situation where Dwayne and I are going to be drafting all summer long. So wouldn't be surprised if Rashee Rice, as more and more people, again, become more comfortable with his injury and, yes, the legal situation, wound up chasing him up into the round 2 area. So it really was, Dwayne, I think the legal stuff that, Drew Davenport, who also is a great follow for those of you interested in auction fantasy drafts, one of the more fun ways to go out there and have some fun. So yeah, man, again, Rashee Rice, not a given he's going to be suspended. Sounds like, it's wheels up in terms of what he's doing, recovering from the injury, thus feeling better and better about him. Another guy, Dwayne, because I think it was Dr. Jeff Mueller had some good things to say about Rashee Rice. He was also pretty optimistic about Brandon Ayuk. And, I was spending my Sunday evening, unfortunately, watching my Cleveland Cavaliers drop one to the Indiana Pacers, but also watching some Ricky Pearsall, basically all of his catches from last year. And I know, coming back from the gunshot, ruining everything. Got every single Ricky Pearsall conversation the rest of the time. We need to add that caveat, and for good reason. But when you look at the 49ers, man, I was watching Pearsall, watching Juwan Jennings. I just couldn't help but think, my God, Brandon Ayuk is so clearly the best wide receiver on this team. They have $30 million that reflect that reality. If he is good to go in week 1, Dwayne, is he not the wide receiver 4 right now who we could just be kicking ourselves, 2 weeks into the season saying, my God, why do we not just take Brandon Ayuk everywhere?
Yeah, I mean, potentially. I will say this. Early in the season before he was hurt last year, he was getting outplayed by Juwan Jennings. And so this is 2 out of the last 5 years where Brandon Ayuk actually kind of crapped the bed over the first part of the season, So we've now got 2 seasons on record like that, and that's a bit concerning. There was also the trade rumors of how they were willing to potentially, move on from him. None of that ultimately played out, so not going to speculate too much about it. But yeah, I do like Brandon Ayuk, and on a build like this, I understand it. I just want to be careful because we've already taken on one player that could have to deal with a suspension or have a lingering injury. So it's how do you – I would rather not go back down that path if we didn't have to, but if he were to fall in value, then I think I would definitely be on board. There goes Tet and Travis Hunter. So I'm
just saying, last point, Ayuk, right now he's going behind Khalil Shakur, Jaden Reed, George Pickens, Ricky Pearsall himself, all right? Not that there's anything bad about those guys, but if one of them, no more Debo, I'm just saying, Brandon Ayuk, when he is at his best, pretty good players. So entering now round 4, again, we started off with 2 running backs in Bijan Robinson and Jonathan Taylor. Went ahead and scooped up Rashee Rice just a little bit ahead of ADP in round 3. Takes us now to round 4. So quarterbacks starting to fly off now. Just had Josh Allen go, Lamar Jackson and Jaden Daniels at the top of the queue. Again, Dwayne, because we've already taken our, numerous running backs, I think we are more than fine passing on them for the time being. That leaves DJ Moore, Devonta Smith, Jameson Williams, Zay Flowers as some of the best wide receivers on the board. Any of those guys getting you excited?
Did Mike Evans go?
He just went, a few picks ago.
Okay. Yeah. I'm fine with DJ Moore. I've cooled on him a little bit since the Bears draft, just because they added these additional players. And I know that, he was kind of a punk. Let's just be honest. He was a punk last year, being a baby, not playing, quitting on plays. But I have a feeling with Ben Johnson there, trying to revamp the offense, vibes are good. I could still see a ceiling case for DJ Moore as well. And I could see him being the lead guy. We don't know what we have in Luther Burden. Colston Loveland, as much as we like him, he's a rookie. And Rome Odunze, for all intents and purposes, he was a bust as a rookie. So I do like DJ Moore. I
he
think
is
we have to
gone.
go wide receiver. So
He is gone.
he
So
went.
Jameson, Zay Flowers, Cortland Sutton, DK Metcalf, Calvin Ridley, Jalen Waddle, top names. We have 15 seconds.
I like
Zay
Sutton.
Flowers, Sutton.
Yeah, I like Sutton. I mean, he just played really well last year.
Yeah.
They did not do enough in the draft to make me feel like,
cool
oh man, Pat Bryant. Pat Bryant's the new Marquez Colston. Well, is he? We'll see. Cortland Sutton, the only new target competition this year for him is Evan Ingram. We've got a young quarterback in Bo Nix that we like. I know it feels kind of gross because Sutton doesn't feel like a super high ceiling play, but I do feel like you took Rashee Rice. That's your ceiling play. Sutton certainly could be a glue guy, right? 14, 15 fantasy points per game, and we'd feel really good about it.
Also, I've been drafting a lot of Evan Ingram, and, I haven't been as much Sutton. So the more we can try to build some of these Broncos stacks, the more hopefully we'll be seeing some dollars roll into our bank account. A short.
The Kittle pick was the other one. I didn't know that we could do it because we needed the receivers, but Kittle going multiple rounds behind Trey McBride is a cheat code. I actually think George Kittle may be my most drafted tight end this year.
Nice. Certainly getting up there a little bit, but you couldn't tell in his play last season, just got the massive extension from the 49ers. So life as a Kittle stan, still feeling awfully nice. So do you have Jalen Hurts and Joe Burrow? Don't have any stacking connections for those guys. So I think we're going to pass on quarterback and running back again. Best wide receivers, Dwain on the clock. Metcalf, Waddle, Addison, Odunze, Olave.
I personally like Waddle, but I mean,
I was just going to say Waddle.
It's a tier. I think Waddle's shown the higher caliber ceiling profile. Like, I know it didn't happen last year, but over his first 3 years, it did.
And who's to say Tyreek is going to just be chill and be fine? And all of a sudden, can you imagine if Tyreek does end up getting traded, as we've heard how many freaking times this offseason, or God forbid, he does something else, off the field that people aren't exactly loving, not projecting that. I do think there's a better than not case that we see Tyreek Hill starting for the Dolphins and playing, and everything. But big drop off last year in terms of what he was able to do. I understand he was injured and everything, but you wouldn't think, a wrist injury would be completely impacting his ability to get open or make big plays. Alas, it did. So Jalen Waddle's someone that, this time last year, Dwain was going round 2. We were lucky enough to get him in round 5. So Bijan, Jonathan Taylor, Rashee Rice, Cortland Sutton, and Jalen Waddle through 5 rounds. We've managed to rebuild our wide receiver room to a pretty solid standing. And again, got those 2 anchors in Bijan and JT. So given, Dwain, that we did use our first 2 picks on running back, we got 2 of, I would say, our consensus top 8 players at the position. What sort of build are you thinking in terms of total number of running backs? I know it's going to depend a little bit on who we get next, but probably a situation where I'm thinking at the most, we would probably only need 5.
Yeah, the max I'm going is 5. I mean, the draft can always dictate some different things because we do have a flex player, like if somebody really huge value fell. But 4 is kind of the sweet spot, but it would depend on what we did and if we added another one in the next few rounds or not. So yeah, right now I'm thinking 4 to 5.
Right after we took Waddle, we have Metcalf and Addison go off the board. Jalen Hurts has been slipping to round 5. There has been this kind of drop off because, as we saw here, 3 straight quarterbacks in round 4 and Allen, Lamar, and Daniels. Jalen Hurts is kind of the odd man out there. So consensus QB4, but I just think it's the matter of, Dwain loves to go to some of their passing yards per game, which for good reason. It's a very good stat when we're trying to, figure out who's going to be our best fantasy QBs. And when Hurts wasn't even able to crack 200 last year, again, just not quite offering the same passing ceiling as those other guys, albeit still tough to rank anyone else ahead of him. So Chuba, Travion Henderson, and RJ Harvey, that's right, a top 60 pick now, rounding out the end of round 5. As things stand with Harvey now, Dwain, he has been one of the, if not the biggest kind of riser over here in the best ball streets since we've kind of been getting going in post-draft, currently sporting an RB19 ADP. You think you're going to be buying too much of that price?
Yeah, I think this price is still fine. Even at his baseline projection, which we've only got him at 45% of the attempts and 40% route participation, like he could pay this price off. And the ceiling is much more than that if he did suddenly take over. We're projecting more of a rotation just because we've seen Sean Payton do that so often. But we do have to remind ourselves, this is a pretty weak running back room. We wouldn't be surprised at all if RJ Harvey did get 55% of the rushing attempts and 60% route participation. And if he did that, man, he would just absolutely obliterate, where he's going right now. The question is if he will get that type of role.
So we are a few picks away. Alvin Kamara has been someone that I cannot stop drafting in round 6, Dwayne. I know we have our running backs, so this might not be the team for it. I understand in that case. And he just went anyway, so forget what I was talking about. Chris Olave, Chris Godwin, Deebo Samuel, Jerry Jeudy, Jacoby Myers, Matthew Golden, our top wide receivers available right now.
Yeah. It's like I like all those. I'm fine with any of those. I feel like Godwin has the most ceiling, but the addition of Igbuka and this like lingering thing with his leg, I was like very hot on Godwin about a month ago, and now I've cooled a little bit with the draft. So I'm okay if you like Olave. My concern with Olave is it going to be Tyler Shuck? Like it feels like it's Tyler Shuck.
Yeah, Laporta, get a tight end. We'd only need to draft 2 at that point, or are we just a little bit concerned about lack of Ben Johnson and everything going on there?
I'm okay with Laporta. I'm also okay with adding another back here if there is one you like. I mean,
best
it's kind of the
running
sweet
backs
spot.
available: Caleb Johnson, Tony Pollard, Aaron Jones, DeAndre Swift, Brian Robinson, Deebo Samuel, and Chris Olave just went. I'm saying I think we can get one of these running backs to fall back to us because the teams picking before us already have 2 or 3 themselves. So I'll leave it up to you.
Did Godwin
Dwayne.
go or no?
He did not go. So
I would take Godwin. Yeah.
Let's go with Chris Godwin. He's someone that
all you got to do with Godwin, and you're leaving yourself another stack option. We've got multiple now as far as our wide receivers.
We could be sitting here week 3. The injury turns out to be okay. And it's like, oh, yeah, we got Chris Godwin, who's probably going to be a wide receiver 1 as long as he does have that same role in the offense. So through 6 rounds, feeling good, everyone. Still plenty to go there as we have 18 total over here in Best Ball Mania land. First, though, a quick word from our friends over at Bud Light.
Check out the new whip.
Tight.
Fully custom.
How many Bud Lights can you fit in that puppy?
As many Bud Lights as it takes.
It's a lot of Bud Lights. You have to give me one of those.
Wide receivers flying off the board as we resume Dwayne and I's quest to win 2 million. Big ones: Jerry Jeudy, Stephon Diggs, Matthew Golden, George Pickens went right after our Chris Godwin pick. Caleb Johnson is off the board, one of the top running backs. And there goes Sam Laporta. We cannot have our cake and eat it too. So I think we can now ignore the tight ends, Dwayne. I would be cool with a running back if you have one you like. Otherwise, looking at Jacoby Myers, Pearsall, Reed, Shakir, amongst others.
Yeah, I mean, I like your guy DeAndre Swift if he's still available.
Let's do it. I mean, he's just someone that, again, literally has never finished outside the top 24 running backs at any stop in his career in terms of PPR points per game. I know over Underdog we're dealing with half PPR, so maybe not quite the same level of talent, but it's just one of these things where do we really think first-year OC Ben Johnson was just adamant on kicking DeAndre Swift to the curb? And if he was, okay, he did it for Jahmyr Gibbs, which I think is understandable. I think we would all do that if we were coaches or even just managing fantasy teams. And 2, he's had the entire offseason tried it at anyone. And the only murmur we've really gotten lately, Dwayne, is that the Bears could be interested in bringing in Nick Chubb. But even if they do that, I mean, if the Bears added Nick Chubb, would you even be changing your projection for DeAndre Swift, or would that more or less just hurt Roschon Johnson?
It would more hurt Roschon, but it could still it's not like we would come in and take away a bunch of carries from DeAndre Swift, but like the ceiling case scenario probably takes a little bit of a hit, right?
That's fair.
Knowing that they're probably going to give Chubb some of those carries, where now it's kind of wide open. Like we love Roschon as one of the better handcuffs in the later rounds right now, but at the same time, like we also like there is this world that plays out where DeAndre Swift gets 70% of the snaps. Yeah. Like if Chubb signed, that would be gone. So I think it hurts from that aspect. But to your point, like I wouldn't like suddenly be like massively readjusting the ranks.
And again, with Swift, you can show me all those horrible advanced statistic numbers from last season, and I'll show you the same exact list and just point out the presence of guys like Kyren Williams and Joe Mixon. Or we can go back a year and look at how bad Saquon Barkley and Josh Jacobs and all these other guys were in worse offensive situations. Again, just seems wild that we all just unanimously, as a society, Dwayne, love Ben Johnson with the Bears. We love the offensive line improvements, but we just can't seem to wrap our minds around DeAndre Swift actually being quite good in fantasy land, even though, again, far more years than not, that has been the case. So feeling good about Swift. He is also one of the bigger risers in terms of ADP since the draft. Just again goes to show the overall, I think, assumption from the best ball community that we were going to see the Bears use either the first round pick on Genty or a second round pick on one of the Ohio State backs. Wound up not being the case. So maybe we get the Rutgers Kyle Monalaji. Did I get that last name right? Maybe the seventh rounder just goes ahead and takes everything over. But again, cases of that happening in Fantasyland, few and far between. So now getting into round 8, Dwain, we did have Mahomes go off the board. He could have been a potential stacking partner for Rashee Rice. That's okay, though. Still have Baker Mayfield and Bo Nix sitting there for us. You cool taking a quarterback at this point, or would you maybe like to, again, check out some of these RB wide receivers, God forbid, tight end waters?
I'm just looking at the board behind us. None of them have their quarterback.
None of them have stacking guys that would mess with us.
Do either of them have Bucks or Broncos?
No Broncos, no Bucks.
And I think we let it go, and we take either Mayfield or Bo Nix coming back, and we just live with it if we get screwed on it.
Yep.
we'll figure something out. We'll come back to Tua later. We can still come back to Tua. I would like Tua to be our QB2 with Waddle. But yeah, I think we take whatever the best thing is that we think's available here at wide receiver or tight end or running back. Tight end, if we get Jonnu, we really set ourselves up
for Tua.
But we would be reaching a little bit at this pick. Not by much. What pick will we be at? 90, early 90s?
Brian Robinson sitting there. He's someone that, again, nice little winner considering they added nothing to it. If Brian Robinson scored 12 touchdowns this year, I would not bat an eye.
Yeah, I think this the fact that we took DeAndre Swift, though, in the last round.
That's fair.
I think I like going...
Pittman?
Huh?
We're on the clock, by the way. How about Michael Pittman?
I think I like going Jonnu here, and then coming back and getting Bo Nix or Baker Mayfield. And the other thing we're placing the bet on here with Jonnu and Jalen Waddle, we're actually just betting that Tyreek Hill is going to freak the hell out.
Yeah.
And it's not going to go well. These are going to be the two leading guys in the offense as far as the pass catchers go. So it's like we're down narrative street now, which is the fun part of drafting best ball teams.
And that's how you should be building it. Again, like we have Bijan Robinson, so we are full-hearted, clear eyes, full hearts, Bijan Robinson RB1 season. So when we get into the handcuff waters later, probably not going to be looking that hard at Tyler Algier because Algier going off would mean our first round pick really freaking stinks. And obviously there's going to be plenty of other teams out there that have it differently. So instead, again, it's just trying to build that perfect narrative for your team as Dwayne's hinting at. So instead looking at, guys we missed out on in round 1, Saquon, or I guess that's a bad example, but more guys like, again, Josh Jacobs, where we look at Marshawn Lloyd later. Maybe, instead of Devon Achane, we look at Jalen Wright. Instead of Christian McCaffrey, Isaac Guerrero. So again, a lot of chances to pivot. But Dwayne, it is looking like we're going to have our chance to go ahead and get Baker Mayfield, or not Baker Mayfield. Yeah, Baker Mayfield or Bo Nix. Who do you prefer?
I say we take Baker personally. But you could talk me into either one. I like that. I have them both right next to each other in the ranks. I think Baker leaves you open to potentially come back and get Igbuka.
Yeah. And we can get Otten later. We definitely don't need like an Ingram at this point. So I'm cool with that. Let's go ahead and go with Baker Mayfield. Bo Nix's ADP is quite a bit behind too. I don't think he's going to make it back to us, but there's no real, Ingram's not going to go, I don't think, for a little bit. So, like, there will be weirder things if Bo Nix comes back. There's, right now, the way the ADP is shaking out everyone, you kind of have this second quarterback run that goes on, again, after kind of the top dogs are off. So you do end up seeing some sliders from the group. Hopefully it ends up working out for us stack-wise. So now Dwayne and I are through 9 rounds. Again, started off RB strong, Bijan and Jonathan Taylor. Went 4 straight wide receivers to help level out that position. Rashee Rice, Cortland Sutton, Jalen Waddle, and Chris Godwin. Tacked on another RB in DeAndre Swift, again, still at that RB3 price point, even though if you had to sit there and rank and project him, really is tough to keep him out of the top 24. Then Jonnu Smith and Baker Mayfield not leave us hanging too much at the onesies. So, Dwayne, I'm not going to sit here and say that we painted the Mona Lisa in the first 9 rounds or anything like that, but we have left ourselves, I think, strong enough at a minimum at every position. So let's have a good second half of the draft, my friend.
Yeah, no, I feel good about it. And like, this is my first Best Ball Mania drafting right now. So definitely just kind of learning on the fly here. We've obviously we've got to get back at wide receiver, and people are kind of shooting all over the board here. Like we saw Jaden Higgins and Trey Harris go at that turn from the one hole. There goes Rashid Shaheed. Shaheed is one of the guys that, like, when you look at projections, he projects way better than this rank. Now, I know he's coming off the injury, but all signs are that, like, he's good to go. But then you also have the Derek Carr uncertainty, and then that means, okay, what are we doing? Are we dealing with Tyler Shuck? And Ekbuka did go right before our pick, so that's going to be we don't have a shot at that anymore.
Fun fact on Shaheed, he was actually one of the players I highlighted in my small sample size All-Stars. A little bit of an exception because his was just injury related. But last season, Rashid Shaheed in 6 games had 4 top 18 PPR finishes. That was the same number as Tyreek Hill, DJ Moore, Garrett Wilson, and Marvin Harrison Jr. So again, had 2 just complete duds. I think one of them was for sure a goose egg. I think the other one was a 1-catch performance. But man, you look at Shaheed last year and really was making a habit of booming. Hopefully Tyler Shuck, again, good enough to keep some of that going. Or maybe Derek Carr just decides that his shoulder is okay enough, or elbow, whatever his problem is, okay enough to get out there on the football field. So bit of a tight end run. Again, we kind of, started at the end of round 8, but we have Travis Kelce, Colson Loveland, and Mark Andrews flying off in round 9. Thoughts on Kelce, Dwayne? Because again, he wasn't his usual tight end oneself last year, but still, he finished far better than what he's kind of being priced at now. You got to worry about the age. I understand it, but man, if we do see Mahomes actually get back to having one of those touchdown spike years, you would think that getting Travis Kelce in round 9 would be a nice little bargain.
Yeah, I mean, look, he still had the targets. He just wasn't as effective with them. So, yeah. I mean, where you're getting him right now, I have no problem with it. It's probably a slight overreaction by the market to push him down that low. Like, I won't be surprised. Like, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but if Travis Kelce's like a top 2 tight end this year and everybody's like, oh, wow, Travis Kelce, he's back, again,
he
like,
had
he's
that
an older
great
player.
Playoff game against, it was Houston, right? And it was like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, he did. He had the great playoff
good.
game. He didn't have the great playoff total run, though, which is what we saw from him the year before. That was like, oh, okay, when he wants to turn it on, he just flips a switch and goes. Right. We didn't necessarily get that, from him. So coming
Bo
back
Nix
here, like,
still hanging out.
Yeah, Bo Nix still hanging out. Marvin Mims also.
That's what I was thinking. That would be awesome. Those two.
Because we need a wide receiver. Do any of the guys behind us have a Bronco receiver? Because I'm trying to decide, do we take Mims?
It's only Sutton.
first?
Oh, I see what you're saying. And then just hope that they're not going to take.
Yeah, hope they're. Yeah. But they could still set up some sort of backdoor thing.
This is really good value for Nix. His ADP is 98 right now, and we'd be getting him 117.
I say we just take him then. If Nix makes it, you just take him. Because people are really polarized on Marvin Mims. Like, some people think, like, oh, he was just a gadget. But then I think, like, when I watch his college film, like, gadget stuff isn't what he was doing. He's running deep over routes, vertical routes. And they did cut him loose on a couple of those. Now, there was some lost coverage stuff late last year. But he came up pretty big on honestly deep passes down the middle with Bo Nix. So if we could somehow make that stack pay off.
Mims and Nix both go the 2 freaking picks before us.
So well, that's fun.
That sucks. Caleb Williams sitting there. We do have DeAndre Swift, but Michael Pittman.
What
Evan
about
Ingram,
Christian Kirk?
We
need a receiver.
Why Kirk over Pittman?
I just like the ceiling passing game with Stroud more than Richardson. It's pretty straightforward for me.
Okay.
That's
I have a chance to get Pittman too.
Yeah, I think Pittman, the player, is better. But when I think about the ceiling of the offense, I'm leaning Kirk.
That's fine. I understand where you're coming from. And I do think Noel is more of a 2026 pick, and Kirk should be safe and sound there in the slot. But yeah, CJ Stroud, certainly a bad sophomore year. But Houston, they've tried. They've kicked out some offensive linemen. I'm not certain that the ones they brought in are better, but I appreciate them at least not standing still. Would have been cool to get more overall resources going there, but beggars cannot be choosers. So we do have our 1 tight end in Jonnu. I've just been drafting a lot of Evan Ingram. Maybe this isn't the right team.
Well, this is
but
I don't mind it. I don't mind stacking 2 Broncos together still with Sutton. And
then we're
with Ingram.
done. We're done at tight end if we get it.
And it's also probably the plan of the dude behind us.
Yeah, just stick it to him.
He snapped us off.
Get some payback. That's what fantasy's all about.
And if I was going indie receiver, I would be going Josh Downs, but I think he was already gone. So
yeah, he goes earlier. I do agree. Pittman versus Downs, straight up. I have been taking Downs, but hey, maybe they both do something. Pittman goes anyway. So you cool with Evan Ingram? Some of the best running backs: Charbonnet, Javonte, Stevenson, Spears, Benson.
I'm good with Evan Ingram, because I feel like if we don't take him, like we're pivoting, like receiver is the need here. And the names I'm staring at, like none of them are like, oh my God, pick me now picks.
I agree. All right. Evan Ingram, come on down. And I will say, like, if I get one of Brock Bowers, Trey McBride, George Kittle, I'm fine with my second tight end being Mike Gesicki, or it can be Dalton Schultz. It can be whoever in the last couple rounds of the draft. Jonnu Smith, and even Laporta, like that is that next tier where if I can get a second guy that I actually do believe in, I think he has some ceiling, such as Evan Ingram, now hopefully fulfilling that Joker role that Sean Payton's talked about for so many years. I do think that is, again, a nice pairing. So now through 11 rounds, just got to
recap, like we've got draft capital. We took the first 2 picks were running backs. So that dictated we had to pivot to receiver, because we know in this format, if you don't go ahead and go to your receivers, you're going to get buried because you have to start 3. A lot of people flex. It's underdog. They go higher. I like the picks we did. Rashee Rice, Cortland Sutton, Jalen Waddle, Chris Godwin. Then we circled back and grabbed the third running back, DeAndre Swift, who could be like in this 70% role. Made sure we had a tight end. We do have a setup with Jonnu Smith and Waddle for a potential backdoor stack. I have not been paying attention to see if Tua went. I don't think he has.
He goes 150.
So that's another option. And then we got the Christian Kirk pick. We came back and added a 5th guy. I know Christian Kirk's not sexy, man, but like if the Texans offense clicks this year and he's getting a 19-20% target share, it could be enough for like a best ball kind of format to where we feel fine about it. Like Christian Kirk in a redraft league where I got to pick the weeks I'm going to start him, I get a little bit more queasy. Like I would need him to prove it over the first few weeks, but in a best ball format, I feel pretty good about it. And he does things well, Ian, that Stroud likes, which is working that deep vertical area. This is not a slot receiver that's going to stay around the line of scrimmage. This is a guy that's going to be working that vertical seam more often. And so I think there's a potential nice fit with what Stroud likes to do.
Again, really not expecting Tank Dell to be playing much, if at all, of this season. If he is back, it's going to be
I've got him
later
projected for 0.
Yeah, I think that's probably, unfortunately, the move right now. So, used a round 1 pick on round 2, on Jaden Higgins for a reason. I do expect it to be Nico, Higgins, and Kirk in 3 wide receiver sets. But yeah, right now, man, I would have to say the front runner to be the number 2 target in Houston should be Mr. Christian Kirk. So, all right, Tua's ADP is, let's see, pick 153. We're about to pick 141 and 148. So I think we should use that round 13 pick to go ahead and get Tua. We're going to have let's see, where's the Tyreek manager? Ooh, Tyreek manager picked right after us.
Yeah, we have to take Tua.
Spot. Let's take Tua with this next one.
Who are the wide receivers that are available? Who are the receivers available? Because I think that's the other position we would consider.
Jalen McMillan is interesting because we have Baker, Jalen Noel, Quentin Johnston, Joshua Palmer, Liggett, Cedric Tillman, our boy. We could get Tillman at 148 potentially. I'd like that.
Yeah, I'm good with taking. I'm good with taking our quarterback.
Maybe Quentin Johnston too, man. All right, CJ Stroud just went. So as long as all right, cool. Let's get Tua. Lock him down.
Yeah.
Again, usually I'd be okay pushing it, but because of, again, and Dwayne's been doing a good job of that all draft, really just looking at that draft board and trying to figure out what the guys around you are going to be doing when you are looking to maybe make a little bit of a, push or hope for a depressed ADP really does become natural there. So going to have a big pick here coming up in round 13, guys, right after a quick word from our friends over at Bud Light.
Hey, you're not actually allowed to drink in a beer commercial?
Since when?
You gotta wait till it's done.
5,
4, 3, 2, 1.
All right, DMAC, we are back. Few picks before us here as we get going into round 13. Jalen McMillan sitting there. Obviously, they used a round 1 pick on Emeka Ibuka. That said, I don't think he scored 8 touchdowns as a rookie and immediately hit the bench. That said, if I did have to say who's going to score more points, McMillan, Quentin Johnson, or Cedric Tillman, I would probably be taking McMillan last. So personally, I think Tillman has the highest ceiling of this group. What say you?
Yeah, I like Tillman. I think there's certainly a quarterback roulette that we're going to be playing. At some point, it's going to be the other guys under center and not Joe Flacco. And so I can't guarantee you what the hell's going to happen when that occurs. But also, people forget these things. Like, they could see the rookies for a few games and be like, whoa, this is terrible. We're going back to Joe Flacco. And that could be just in time, for like your last 3 weeks when you're trying to score all your fantasy points to win Best Ball Mania. So yeah, I'm good with Tillman. You and I both had chatted offline. Like, he's one of these guys that was showing up better in the projections than the ranks and things like that. So I do like it. And we needed a receiver for this build.
Yeah, Cedric Tillman, it was a small stretch, and I understand Jameis was under center, but this was happening with Jerry Jeudy still out there. I mean, okay, they traded Amari Cooper. Tillman got pushed into the starting lineup, and immediately, just over these next 4 weeks, went off to the point that he was the wide receiver 8 in PPR points per game during that 4-week stretch, okay? That's per game. I'm not even doing the move where you can just go ahead and compare this guy versus a bunch of other guys that have a bye week thrown in there. Like, per game, Cedric Tillman was legit a top 8 wide receiver for a 5-week total stretch last season. That happened, and now we just got him again going as the wide receiver 68 right now. That's the thing. I mean, look, if you want to go ahead and put him up there, I know you haven't projected around wide receiver 48. I think that's fine. We're not saying the guy's going to be a wide receiver 1. I think boom or bust wide receiver 4 sounds right. So yeah, I'll buy him as a wide receiver 6.
Yeah. And back to our pick before Tua, I honestly feel like people are kind of freaking out too much. I know he's a stationary pocket passer that has concussion issues, right? So there's certainly issues there, but when Tua's doing his thing, Ian, it's good. I mean, look at him last year once he did finally get back and healthy. He gave you 23.5, 28.5, 23.2, 21.5 fantasy points. So when he's had his weapons healthy, this is still a very explosive passing attack. And if you squinted and thought, okay, is there a scenario where Tua is a top 12 quarterback this year? I think there certainly is. He could be a guy that's like Jared Goff last year. He's in that same range. And to be going QB 22, especially with the premium stack players that you get options on, I just feel like there's this narrative out there right now that the Dolphins offense is done. And I feel like it's more just people are tired of the Dolphins offense. It was fun and cool, but now it hasn't evolved to take this next step. But to me, it's okay, that's true, but we still need to stop and sit here and reflect at what a good offense this has been for 3 years. And I think that still should be our biggest takeaway.
Again, when Tua did return in week 8, it was one of these things where they were back to being, by most numbers, top 5, worst case, top 10, and pretty much everything. Yeah, they weren't taking over the league like they had, for brief parts of 2023. But you just mentioned some of the, again, good fantasy performances Tua still managed to put up during the second half of last season, Dwayne. And that was with easily 3-year lows in most of his efficiency numbers, save for completion percentage. So God forbid he just even splits the middle between what we saw from last year relative to 2022 and 2023. I think, again, we could be looking at that later round QB because it seems like there's one every year, man. That pocket passer has the spike in touchdowns. Why not Tua? So as we now get into round 14, looking at the queue, running back becomes possible again. Algier Eckler's interesting. He just got picked, right? As I say that, never speak about players that you want. It's a good lesson there. And we are now on.
What are the wide receivers up there?
Quentin Johnston, we're getting him a good round pass ADP too.
Joshua Palmer.
Wandale. I hate Wandale. I don't hate Wandale, but kind of,
Yeah.
I like QJ, honestly.
The pick here is running back or receiver.
So Quentin Johnston.
Yeah, it's fine. I worry he's pretty much going to get phased out with Trey Harris and Mike Williams. I think
they play the one position, though. I don't think they're going to both take him out of the starting lineup, though. I could see Trey Harris hurting his targets, but I think Harris and Williams are there to be the more or less, the sacrificial field stretcher. I think QJ's still going to kind of get his yak opportunities. Regardless.
Yeah, it's just crowded. There's definitely at least going to be, he's going to have to rotate off the field more than he did in the past. And I just worry, like, he just does the dumb stuff that gets you like booted to the bench. It's just like the dumb drops at the worst time.
Marshawn Lloyd,
all that.
These running backs aren't great. All the good running backs we already have.
I like Jalen Wright. Let's go
Jalen Wright. Jalen Wright's someone I wrote up in my kind of lower key veteran winners piece because, again, and I'll show you guys the draft board right now. I don't know why Jalen Wright is going 4 rounds after guys like Trey Benson, Isaac Guerrero, Jaden Blue. Okay, I mean, Jaden Blue is a different story, but with Wright, I mean, it's possible that Ollie Gordon, who they drafted in the 6th round, who is a bigger back, maybe he does emerge as number 2 guy. But with Wright, man, remember, round 4 draft capital, but it was more like round 3 because they traded the 2025 round 3 to move up in the first place. And while Wright wasn't fantastic with his opportunities, I mean, he actually did have the best numbers among Dolphins running backs in yards after contact per carry, in missed tackles forced per carry, even in explosive run rate. So again, Dwain, just like as things stand right now, as we're drafting here on Cinco de Mayo. Shout out, happy Cinco de Mayo to you, my friend. As we're sitting here right now, I don't know how you could say anything other than Jalen Wright is the RB2 in Miami. And what the RB2 do in Miami 2 years ago? He scored 20 freaking touchdowns, man. So not saying Wright's going to score that, but I think there's legit standalone value. And God forbid something does happen to Devon Achane. If we're right about Jalen Wright being the RB2, he's one of the best handcuffs in fantasy football.
Yeah. No, I still think that Wright does the things that like they comp to Achane, which is the big play making ability in the alleyways. You try to get him to the perimeter on those quick power toss plays, things like that. So I feel like his skill set's the most duplicative with Achane, especially if something happened with Achane. A little bit of a concern that Ollie Gordon could be the better complement to Achane. But again, this is, Ollie Gordon didn't go in round 3 of the draft. He fell in the draft. So it would kind of be a surprise, to be honest, if Ollie Gordon suddenly worked himself into a major part of a rotation for the Dolphins in year 1 of his rookie deal. So yeah, I'm with you.
We have 3 more picks, Dwain. We have 2 quarterbacks stacked up pretty nicely in Baker Mayfield and Tua Tagovailoa. 4 running backs, Bijan, JT, DeAndre Swift, and Jalen Wright. We have worked our way up to 7 wide receivers, so feeling better about that. And we have our 2 tight ends in Jonnu Smith and Evan Ingram. So definitely done with tight end. Thoughts on taking a dart like Jalen Milroe at quarterback in round 18, or are you comfortable with Baker and Tua?
No, with how we stacked the 2 guys where we did, we spent, again, it all comes back to draft capital allocation. So once you spend the picks where we did on Baker and Tua, I'm good with what we have. We could get jinxed by the bye week stuff, Oh, wow. But no, I think I'm out on the QB3 build on this one. Good news is we do have the AFC East, with the Dolphins. If we look at their 4 interconference games this year, it's against the NFC South. So we could end up with we could get super lucky there. Not ideal to have both quarterbacks in the same game, but we could end up with like some playoff luck here where we get the Dolphins versus the Bucks.
Okay, so I understand in the most optimal world possible, we want to have this stuff right. But the whole idea that you don't want 2 quarterbacks in the same matchup, like what are we talking about in terms of that correlation really not being optimal, Dwain? Like, is it literally just a couple decimal points, which again would be ideal?
No, it's bigger because what you're doing is you're reducing your outs. So basically, if that game goes nuclear, great. But if it doesn't, if that game just does well, like you're just better off having a quarterback from another game. It doesn't mean that you can't win, but I definitely think the optimal version is not having especially in your week 17 matchup, having the 2 quarterbacks playing against each other. Because if the game goes bad, like you're drawing dead.
All right, so we're going to need to take at least 1 or 2 more wide receivers, top guys on the board. Right now that I don't hate, Demario Douglas still, he's there. Demario Douglas, Jalen Royals is almost like Rashee Rice insurance. Your boy Dontavian Wicks. Darius Slayton is going pretty late for a guy making $36 million, and he can actually boom. He's going to catch some Russell Wilson moonballs this year.
Yeah, Slayton's always underrated. I like AFC East players and NFC South wide receivers. If you see any of those towards the top, obviously you don't want to reach for it.
Let's take Darius Slayton. Thoughts on
Mario
another?
Douglas would have been the AFC East guy to pick.
Draft him next. Thoughts on Tutu Atwell? He's going to be in starting 3 wide receiver sets. He's done some nice things.
But it's just he has. It's just so many targets are going to be hogged by the other 2 guys.
Yeah. Douglas off the board. I'll take responsibility for ruining our optimization by 0.00001. Diamond Brown. Dude, do you think there's a chance
anymore?
I know. I love you though. I know you love me secretly. Devontae Turpin. Any chance he gets a full-time role? I don't really think so.
No.
It'd be cool if we did. Dobbins, and just hope that he lands somewhere. I don't know what's going on with that. You see that latest thing? Schefter's like the Chargers tagged him with the unrestricted free agent tag.
So basically, they haven't paid him yet. But yeah, so basically, they've got the rights to him if he doesn't sign somewhere else before then. So it still isn't like super exciting. Not really.
No. Okay. Estime is someone that we've talked about. Nick Chubb seemingly on the verge of being signed somewhere.
I like Estime. I like the Estime pick on this team.
I'm cool with Estime.
He would be our running back 5, correct?
Yes. We could wait and maybe get him in round 18. Marshawn Lloyd is also on the board. I'm cool with taking
I like
a running back
Royals.
here.
I like Jalen Royals at wide receiver here. You know, if you're just throwing a late round dart at an upside wide receiver.
Let's get our last wide receiver,
like
and I'm thinking one of these
Rashee
running backs
Rice.
will come back. Cool. And it sounded like just when they were talking about the Royals pick that they really do view him as, you know, the Rashee Rice backup. So, hey, hopefully Rashee Rice is just the overall wide receiver 1 for this team, and we don't need to worry about Royals. But, you know, as much as I do think, and I was talking earlier about your handcuffs and why, you know, maybe you shouldn't pair them up on the same team. But a lot of times I do think that's more so in the manner of like, okay, Trey Benson went in round 12. If I took James Conner, you know, in round, where'd he freaking go? If I took James Conner round 6, you know, I don't love the idea of burning one of my round 6 or round 12 picks. However, round 17, just to give you a little bit more safety, maybe that's something I can wrap my mind around a little bit more. So I think we're going to be going one more running back, Dwayne. We got our 9.
How many wide receivers do we have?
And number 9. Well, we went 2 QB, 2 tight ends.
Oh, man. Yeah, usually try to be more like 8's usually the cap, but it's still fine. I didn't look at that before I pick. But we took the 2 running backs to start, so
some other guys sitting there. Brashard Smith, not getting me overly excited. Kareem Hunt is sitting here in round 18. He might be the Chiefs starting running back. I think it's Pacheco, but when Pacheco was back last year, we saw it was still Hunt. I know he was hurt, but man.
Yeah.
It's wild.
I feel like he's going to be phased out. I like Woody Marks as well. He's the clear handcuff to Joe Mixon right now.
Is he? Damian Pierce. Mainstream media won't talk about it. Damian Pierce was okay last year.
Yeah, I think they're done. I think they're done with the Dame Pierce.
When they draft Woody Marks, though, like why are we giving him handcuff status? It's round 18. So
traded up for him to get him.
Okay.
So look, Woody Marks like profiles more like this receiving down back, but I would say right now, if you made me put a bet on who the handcuff is to Joe Mixon, I would say it's Woody Marks pretty easily.
All right. I would take that bet, but
I think he immediately takes over Daro Ogunbowale's role as the passing down guy. That's what he's known for. But what you're hoping for is if somehow Mixon misses 4 games right at the time you need it, and while Woody Marks may not normally be a guy we would want in a full-time role like that, for a 4-game stretch, like he could own it, and that could be massive fantasy points.
Okay, so the running backs I have in the queue right now, Marshawn Lloyd, seemingly RB2 behind Josh Jacobs. We'll never know if he was supposed to have a bigger role last year, but they did not add to the position with anyone meaningful this offseason. A.J. Dillon is now completely gone. That was another situation where we were starting to get a little worried about him. I think he had the neck injury, missed the whole season on IR. So Marshawn Lloyd, another, we're talking about USC backs here. We're still talking about a guy with Marshawn Lloyd who, again, has that pass-catching profile, the explosiveness. I was happily drafting him as an RB4 last year. Now, even if he didn't get injured, that might have been misguided. So let's not, throw stones at me here. But hey, round 18, not the worst idea. Also,
Lloyd,
Nick Chubb,
Estime, and Marks are all fine picks by me. I like.
What about
any
Chubb?
one of those.
You just dust, not buying the workout videos.
I think he's fine to be on the list here. I mean, I think the struggle for me now is like looking at the landing, like what's the nut landing spot where we're just like, whoa, look at Nick Chubb, like
Dallas,
and maybe the answer to that is, well, let's see if there's an injury that shakes out in preseason.
That too.
I kind of lean to the younger guys here, but I'm fine if you want to click on Chubb.
I know, like Ricky and some of the insiders that actually try to tell us stuff before the agents tell them it's okay. I appreciate them. They've been saying that Chubb to Chicago could be a done deal. So if Chubb does go to Chicago, like, do you think he's all of a sudden going to be this round 12, round 13 pick?
Probably.
That's what I'm wondering here. I don't think Estime's ADP is going to change until August.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with Chubb.
Okay. That would make us Bijan, JT, DeAndre Swift, and Jalen Wright as our, and then obviously Nick Chubb. Someone just took Raheem Mostert. What is wrong with you? But, respectfully. Tutu Atwell off the board just before that. Been taking, a couple shares here and there, the guy. Because, again, we have seen it did take Puka and Cooper being out. I remember I had all my DeMarcus Robinson bags packed. And it was like, oh my God, Puka and Cooper Kupp out. DeMarcus Robinson wheels up. No, it was actually Tutu Atwell. So you okay with Nick Chubb, Dwayne?
Yeah, I'm good.
Nick Chubb, come on down. All right, guys, going to quickly recap this team again. Running back room, Bijan Robinson, Jonathan Taylor went very strong, so did not feel the need to take another one until DeAndre Swift. Round 7, filled things out with Jalen Wright, perhaps an underrated handcuff. Round 15, Nick Chubb in the last round. We got our two quarterbacks in Baker Mayfield and Tua Tagovailoa in rounds 9 and 12. To complement them, we have Rashee Rice, Courtland Sutton, Jalen Waddle, Chris Godwin, Christian Kirk, Cedric Tillman, Quentin Johnston, Darius Slayton, and Jalen Royals at wide receiver. Perhaps went one wide receiver too many, as Dwayne and I were discussing a few minutes ago. But again, felt good enough about Tua and Baker, as well as our tight end room with Jonnu Smith and Evan Ingram, to feel like we could have done that. So, Dwayne, as we end these drafts, just like to, again, take a moment to say, where could we have perhaps gotten better throughout this?
I mean, it's my first one for Best Ball Mania. So, like, you called it out. Like, we probably went with one wide receiver too many. I liked where we ended up with our tight ends and quarterbacks, though. We didn't spend super high draft capital, but we spent 2 picks on each in that mid draft capital range. So I felt good about that. Like, if I were to pick one play where maybe we could have gone in a different direction, maybe it's Christian Kirk. But still, I don't feel bad about that pick either. So
and that was when Knicks and Mims
the biggest thing is
went right before us. You know what I'm saying? Like, we didn't want Kirk necessarily. So kind of had to.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and did the Bo Nix guy even have a Bronco?
Nah, I think he was just hating.
Yeah. So, I mean, it is what it is. But yeah, it's he wasn't able to circle back for anything either. But no, I feel good about it. I thought we talked through several things, like not necessarily being in on Ayuk when we had already taken Rashee Rice, unless there was a fall in value. Quentin Johnston was my most questionable pick, but you obviously feel a little bit better about him than me. So I feel like it's fine, like where he went in that range. I don't know what running backs we passed there for Quentin Johnston.
We ended up getting Wright anyway.
Wright and Chubb.
Yeah. Algier didn't make sense on this team. I think, again, that was another situation where if Eckler had been there for us, I probably would have been fine going after that one. We would have had to talk through it. But that is just a weird range in draft with the running backs. We kind of missed Ray Davises of the world. Go ahead.
Like, if I'm nitpicking it, I think it's Josh Palmer over Quentin Johnston. Not because we necessarily think Josh Palmer's great, but he's going to be in a role. He plays for Buffalo. That's going to be AFC East, right? And so that just stacks up. We have a better chance of landing like a week 16 or 17 stack because we've got the Dolphins in the AFC East, where we end up getting that bring back player. So I would probably say that's like nitpicking, and that's like thinking more like end of the season matchups and stuff like that. So no, I like the team. This was a fun first draft.
I had fun too, my friend. Hope you guys had fun tuning in. Very, very excited for Hot Best Ball Summer. Some of the tools we have coming your guys' way. Make sure you continue checking out the Fantasy Live Show for more updates on that throughout the summer. But otherwise, go out there, have a great day, and again, happy Cinco de Mayo. So for Dwayne, I'm Ian. Thanks again for tuning into the Fantasy Live Show. And until next time, take care, everybody.